Guys, I figured out my favorite fighting type.
And his name is John Cena!
Pretty funny guy. I gotta throw in the John Cena jokes here and there. But we're gonna get serious now and talk about my top 5 fighting types as of Generation 7. Now, this is actually a very tough list to make because there's so many fighting types that I actually like. So narrowing it down to 5 really was difficult for me. So before we go into anything, there is 57 current fighting types. That is including forms, however. If you're not including forms, like Meloetta, Pirouetta, or Pokemon that gain the fighting type through form change or something, then there's only 54. So I went with the 54 because, a lot of the ones who get them through form changes, like the Megas and stuff, I'm not just, they're nice, but they're not exactly. I would rather put those into their original form. So for most of them, it's actually normal, like Lopunny, Meloetta. All of those are really normal types that then get another. So it was just easier to me to take those out. So this list is not going to be in any particular order, and this is also going to be very, very personal based. These are what I think are 5 of the best. And they may not be the best competitively either, but they're just really fun to play with. They're very unique, and they're very, good. So the first one on my list is actually Hitmontop. And, Hitmontop, it's very hard to actually describe how interesting this Pokemon is. Now, in VGC, in Smogon, this thing's actually pretty bad. RU, it doesn't really get seen because there's just better fighting types. But in League play, being a tier 4, it is one of those mons that almost exclusively always gets picked up. And looking at it, it has Intimidate, Technician, and Steadfast. Steadfast not that good, but the other two amazing. Looking at its stats, huge defenses. Like, its only bad stat is like special attack and a little bit in health, but like, throw an Assault Vest on this thing, you're golden. It gets super good hard-hitting moves, such as Close Combat. If you go Technician, you can Bullet Punch. It gets EQ, Fake Out. It gets Rapid Spin, Quick Attack, Sucker Punch. Like, so many good moves that this thing can make use of. And it's just unparalleled on how useful this thing can be in the Draft League. Plus the fact that it's like, its fighting style is so unique in comparison to other fighting types. It's almost like the Drunken Monk fighting style, and I love that. Going into our second fighting type, we actually have Infernape. Now, Infernape, very good fighting type. I think it was when they really nailed firefighting. Some people really like Blaziken, some people really like Emboar. I am a huge Infernape fan because I feel that Infernape really encapsulates what a firefighting type should be. Looking at its stats, again, 104 in both of the offenses, 71 in both of the defenses. It really is balanced, and that is what I would feel a firefighting type would be. It is more encapsulating such as Sun Wukong fighting style, and it's really using those chi attacks or key attacks, and that's where it's getting its special side from. But it also has very good physical attacks, which is where it's getting its offense from. Looking at its moves, it gets, once again, fighting, ground, fake out, fire. It gets gunk shot. It gets priority. It can set up nasty plot. It can set up swords dance, thunder punch, fire punch, power up punch, U-turn. This thing is a beast in both Smogon and League play. VGC, once again, not very much seen. I'm not an expert on VGC though, but I know in League play and in Smogon, this thing can take names. Our third one here is actually Cobalion, and it was really, really tough for me to make a choice between Cobalion and Lucario, guys, because both are very exceptional fighting steel types, but I had to give it to Cobalion because I felt Lucario was a little too close to a lot of the fighting types we've seen so far. So many of these fighting types are bipedal, and to see a quadruped fighting type is very interesting for me. Because if you think of most fighting games, a lot of the characters stand on two legs. And you may think, well, it's hard to make characters that don't. No, it's really not. You got Pokemon like Cobalion. You have many ideas. Like, you could have a grass fighting snake Pokemon. I don't know. I'm throwing out ideas. Looking at its stats, again, very mixed, which I very much like because it's breaking that mold of fighting types are exclusively physical and that's all they can do. That's what it's breaking. You got good defense. None of its stats are even bad, really. It's got an amazing ability in Justified, meaning that it can not only take a dark type move because it is a fighting type, it'll be resisted, but it also then gets a boost? Doesn't get much better than that. Looking at its moves, again, Flash Cannon, Focus Blast, Facade, Calm Mind, Close Combat, very good on just both sides. It can set up rocks, it can Volt Switch out of there, it can set up Thunder Waves, Taunt. This thing is a beast. Now, Smogon really does not do it justice. However, League Play, being a tier 3, this thing can just demolish. And people don't really realize that, how good this thing can be in League Play. If you are doubting me, you know what? Pick it up and give it a whirl. It's a great steel type. It's a great fighting type. Very fast. Great Pokemon. For the number 2, number 4, whatever, I guess number 2 spot, we have Hawlucha. Now, I know what you're going to say in that Hawlucha, it's not really that memorable. If Ash wouldn't have had it, it would be one of those Pokemon that completely gets overlooked, and I kind of agree, but I feel that this really encapsulated the fighting type that it was meant to encapsulate. This is meant to be that Mexican wrestler that has the mask, like a luchador, and I really feel that this actually encapsulated it. If you look at how Ash's Hawlucha acted in the anime, it really gave this Pokemon substance. Now, a lot of his Pokemon had the same-ish personality in the past, and I think this one really just stood out for me. And looking at it from a competitive standpoint, this thing is okay in Smogon. It does work. It did work in Gen 6, I should say. Now, they are still establishing the Gen 7 stuff, so I can't say it'll do work. But in League, this is the kind of Pokemon that I slept on. And then I got 5-0'd by it. Because I didn't think, oh, this thing is just one of those, obscure Pokemon that you can just 1-2 hit. And it's really not. If you look at its abilities, 3 very solid abilities. Limber, getting rid of that paralysis, so your speed's always good. Unburden. Well, if you go Citrus Berry, I believe Belly Drum. I'm not sure if it gets Belly Drum, but we'll check. It doesn't get Belly Drum. It did something where it basically just swept me. You could do Weakness Policy. You have a lot of options here. This thing has the defenses and health that it's going to live a hit usually. And then the last ability is Mold Breaker. And again, so good that it's just, it's very hard to not use this thing. And if you guys aren't sure, take it for a test run. It's very solid. And again, for moves, like many other fighting types, this thing has very good versatility. It has Acrobatics, which goes again with that Unburden set. It gets Drain Punch for healing. You can use its special. Its special attack isn't horrible. It gets good special moves like Grass Knot and Focus Blast, but I prefer it on the physical side. Poison Jab for those fairy types. You got Roost. You got Stone Edge. You got some good moves. Not to mention, you can U-turn out. And that's always important. And the last. Now, again, these aren't in order by any means, but the last fighting type. Now, this was very tough, guys. Now, I had Conkeldurr on here for a while. I had Machamp on here for a while. But I realized, I had to give it to this Pokemon. And it's Heracross. Now, Heracross competitively is not the best Pokemon. It's got a pretty good Mega Form, but overall, it's not the kind of Pokemon that you see in VGC, in Smogon, that's coming in and just demolishing. Looking at its abilities, Swarm, not that good. Guts, that's pretty good to be honest. And then Moxie, that's also very good. Having a ×4 weakness to flying, though. Really hinders this thing. That being said, though, looking at its moves, it gets things like Bullet Seed, Close Combat, EQ, Facade, Knock Off, Mega Horn, Night Slash, Rock Blast, Rock Slide, Shadow Claw. This thing covers its bases. Its stats also, again, very good stats. The only bad stat is special attack, and being a fighting type, that's pretty average. 80 in the HP, always solid. 125 in attack means that this thing is going to be coming in and hitting hard. Its defenses aren't horrible by any means, being that this thing can usually live any non-flying hit pretty well. And then its speed at 85, not the worst in the world. Again, in League play, this thing shines more than in Smogon. And that's what you're going to find a lot with my top 5 lists that I'm going to be trying to do every week. These are more geared towards how I feel these Pokemon perform in League. Now, some of them, like Infernape, may do very well outside of League as well, but I'm looking at many different aspects. I'm looking at design. I'm looking at, how much impact did this have on me as a kid? And I got to tell you, Heracross for me as a kid was the bomb. Watching Ash get that Heracross, it was hilarious seeing that Heracross always going after that Bulbasaur. Picking this thing up in the Generation 2 games, it was awesome for me to get to use this thing. It was a powerhouse. It had good typing at the time, and it was one of those mons you could get pretty early in the game, and I loved it. Anyway, guys, that's the first of my top 5 Tuesdays. Leave a comment in the comment section down below letting me know one of your favorite fighting types. If I missed something, just let me know. I've been Vampire218, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!